The human brain is a physical network of tissue, blood vessels, and electrical impulses. Yet this machinery produces the entirely immaterial experience of being alive. For millennia, civilizations have developed precise vocabularies to name this invisible essence. The Vedic traditions called it the Atma. Islamic scholars described the Ruh. Judaism layered the self into the Nefesh and the Neshama. Conventional neuroscience maps the firing of billions of neurons, but it hits a wall known as the hard problem of consciousness. Tracing an electrical signal fails to explain why physical processes generate a conscious internal life. This gap in our understanding is the target of a new multidisciplinary research paper by Dr. Sudendra S.G. The research proposes that the spiritual concepts of a soul possessed a measurable empirical substrate in genomics in quantum physics. The quantum genomic architecture of consciousness, or QGAC, suggests that the soul is an internal observation of specific DNA, epigenetic, and quantum mechanisms. This framework deconstructs the human self across 5 specific physical layers, tracing the architecture of consciousness from individual DNA base pairs down to the scale of quantum mechanics. Aligning these domains grounds thousands of years of human phenomenology into rigorous observable evidence. Every cell contains 3.2 billion base pairs of DNA, a responsive, context-sensitive information system that shifts its expression based on our environment and psychological state. DNA physically folds into chromatin, wrapping tightly around histone proteins. This specific spatial configuration dictates which neural proteins are produced, directly influencing the mind. This environmental responsiveness relies on the second layer of the architecture, epigenetics. Through mechanisms like DNA methylation, the body attaches chemical tags to the genome. These tags turn specific genes on or off, altering how the code functions without changing the underlying ATCG sequence. Researchers have discovered that many of these epigenetic modifications are heritable, surviving reproduction to pass intact to subsequent generations. When a parent endures severe stress or trauma, the resulting epigenetic signatures can be detected in the stress response genes of their descendants. This provides a molecular mechanism for the concept of karma. In this model, ancestral history and behavioral dispositions form a physical ledger that shapes the biological fate of future generations. While the genome stores information inside the nucleus, the phenomenon of awareness occurs within the active neural pathways of the brain. To explain how this tissue generates subjective experience, the framework incorporates the orchestrated objective reduction, or ORCH-OR theory, developed by mathematical physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Dr. Stuart Hameroff, who identified the specific hardware inside the brain capable of sustaining quantum states. Deep inside neurons are structural lattices called microtubules, constructed from tubulin proteins. Within these, hydrophobic pockets contain electron clouds that enter quantum superposition. Governed by space-time geometry, these superpositions spontaneously collapse. Each objective reduction event generates a discrete flash of conscious awareness. Because DNA dictates the exact amino acid sequence that forms these tubulin proteins, the capacity to host this quantum hardware is a genomic property. This schematic maps the physical substrates of the QGAC model directly to classical spiritual doctrines across 6 world religions. Layer 1, the nucleotide sequence, maps to the concept of an innate divine blueprint, recognized as Dharma in Hinduism or Fitra in Islam. Layer 2, the heritable epigenome, accounts for the transmission of karma and the Christian concept of inherited original sin. The third layer represents gene-environment interactions. This biological plasticity reconciles the tension between fixed fate and individual agency, providing a molecular basis for free will. Layers 4 and 5 involve quantum coherence and neural connectomics. If conscious experience emerges from discrete quantum events, they provide the physical architecture for the highest-order spiritual concepts like the Atma and the Ru. The Buddhist doctrine of Anatman aligns with this model, as it describes the self as a continuous stream of momentary processes rather than a permanent fixed center. These theological doctrines function as era-appropriate descriptions of the exact same 5-layer quantum genomic stack. Grounding the soul in empirical science challenges the Abrahamic doctrine of a unique, immaterial soul created separately from biology. Identical twins share nearly 100% of their genetic and epigenetic material at birth. If the physical substrate building the quantum hardware is identical, we must ask how the soul is individuated. Conversely, human chimerism presents individuals carrying two entirely separate sets of DNA populations within a single body. In a chimera, it remains unclear which genetic profile would determine the theoretical soul. Further, the doctrine of physical bodily resurrection faces the reality of metabolic turnover, where the human body replaces nearly all of its constituent atoms every 7 years. Biological edge cases like twins and cellular turnover suggest the self is a persistent, repeating quantum informational pattern. If the soul is a quantum biological system, the efficacy of ancient religious practices, such as prayer and fasting, requires a mechanistic explanation. Data shows long-term meditation physically restructures connectomic pathways between the prefrontal cortex and amygdala while inducing measurable changes in stress gene methylation. Physical rituals like fasting initiate cellular repair through autophagy, while rhythmic chanting activates ankle tone, shifting the body into parasympathetic dominance. Religious rituals function as culturally evolved protocols designed to optimize our genomic architecture and fine-tune our capacity for quantum coherence. To systematically study these intersections, Dr. Sudendra's paper advocates for a new interdisciplinary field, quantum theological genomics. The ethical stakes are immediate, requiring a reevaluation of moral responsibility for inherited behaviors and an assessment of artificial intelligence achieving equivalent quantum consciousness. Nikola Tesla predicted that once science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all previous centuries. The QGAC framework maps the architecture of consciousness, yet the central mystery of why the universe generates subjective experience remains unsolved. The mechanics of biology and the ancient intuitions of spirituality appear to be tracing the same patterns from different directions. Humanity has spent 10,000 years observing its own quantum. Perhaps the soul is not a thing hidden inside the body, but the living pattern through which biology, consciousness, and the universe briefly recognize themselves.